Claire Pearsall, I'm delighted to say, is joining me today, former Conservative Government Advisor. You've got a little bit of a naughty little smirk on your face, young lady, because, I mean, we thought your lot were bad.
I know,
But I mean, look, everyone I know who was actually a Labour supporter was saying, Keir Starmer, I mean, this guy is, you know, I'm like, I don't know what you're seeing. I don't know. Yeah, he turned it around from absolute defeat under, you know, Corbyn to he won that big majority, fair play. But let's face it, we all know it was basically people going, the Tories are useless, we're done.
Yes.
And that's how Labour got that massive majority. It wasn't a big vote of confidence in Keir Starmer and Labour. They have turned out to be, beyond my wildest imagination of how bad they would be, they have turned out to be worse. But this briefing against any and every cabinet minister that seems to go on, whether it's Lucy Powell, whether it's you know, Angela Rayner, whether it's Bridget Phillipson. I mean, and now, you know, Wes Street, they're definitely going for Wes Streeting. They see him obviously as a threat. Has this shored up Keir Starmer or made him look weaker?
No, I think it's made him look ridiculous. If Number 10 thought that this was going to shore up the Prime Minister and make him look strong and statesmanlike, I don't know what manual they've been reading, but it's not the how to govern manual that the rest of us have. They thought Tory infighting was terrible. Yeah. They thought that we were a childish group of people looking
chaos and incompetence.
Yeah, and now it's a case of hold my beer, we can do it worse than you ever did. I mean, if
Hold
it wasn't
my beer,
so serious,
never here, free gear.
Exactly.
Gear.
I mean, the headlines write themselves, don't they? But apparently this was to smoke out anybody that was against the Prime Minister. They haven't smoked anybody out. They've set the whole place on fire. I don't understand what they're doing. I really don't, because
I don't think they understand.
They're not
what they're
clever
doing
enough for this.
But here's the thing: people, you know, Wes Streeting basically saying Keir Starmer should sack whoever's briefing the media. If he doesn't sack someone, because this wasn't someone said something in the pub. This was a clear briefing to the BBC, to apparently to Bloomberg, to you know, the Times. I mean, this, you know, this is a concerted, deliberate briefing from someone very senior, clearly. Okay, and clearly knowing perfectly well, because Downing Street organises these things, that the media round, the morning round, would be done by Wes Streeting, so putting him on the back foot there. I mean, I watched a lot of his interviews this morning. He handled it with aplomb. He's a brilliant media operator. And he was the whole, like, you know, been watching too much Celebrity Traders, that touch, and talking about, why aren't we talking about the stuff that matters, like his, you know, reforms of the NHS and all that stuff. And I think he was on really, really strong footing. It made him look more like a strong potential leader. But I don't know why they're so threatened. If you look at the polling of Labour Party members, and this is the thing, why did Labour Party members vote for Corbyn as Labour leader originally? Well, because they're all lefties. That's why. They're not representative, actually, largely of Labour voters, you know, Red Wall voters and others. But when there's that polling, Wes Streeting does not do well. I mean, I saw one set of polling, he had 4% of the support. I mean, they love Angie Rayner, you know,
they do.
And they're probably more likely to vote for Ed Miliband. I said, which would, just for the laughs, it would be fun to have him back and have another Ed Stone and all of that. But I mean, you know, but I don't know if the country don't think the country would survive. I don't know that. But how much of a threat it is here? I mean, Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, considered to be a threat. But at the end of the day, I mean, what has she actually done? She talks the talk. She said some good, strong stuff. And yes, you know, she ticks a box. She's a woman. She ticks a box. She's brown. She's another one. She's a Muslim. So for a party that only elects straight white men, they're desperate to have, you know, because they only see things through that prism of identity politics. But realistically, what has she done?
Well, she hasn't. I mean, she's come along and she's spoken a lot tougher on immigration than I think I've seen any other Labour MP do it. But no, she hasn't. And this is always the problem, isn't it? Everybody is looking at who the next leader is going to be.
A year and a half after a general election.
Exactly. Rather than concentrating on the leader that they have, who wanted change, who was going to bring in the grown-ups and make this country great again, to coin a phrase. So why they're doing it, I don't know. They're just not very good. They want to look like they're strong and circling their wagons, but there's no reason for them to do so.
Yeah, but exactly. If you're strong, you're not.
You don't need to do this.
I don't really think that Wes Streeting's a threat. I don't really think Shabana Mahmood's a threat because he's the Prime Minister. But again, you know, we've got PMQs today, what question, will Kemi Page, not the Tory leader, will she go in on any of this stuff? Because, of course, she's facing threats to her own leadership, although she's had a few very, very strong weeks, I would say. But I mean, it's the whole thing is simple. But it's all the backdrop is not just the May local elections. It's this upcoming budget. things are looking terrible. And there's this briefing that's going out that, the markets will go crazy if Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves are ousted, après moi le déluge, kind of thing. I mean, look how bad it could get is the idea. But you've got Wes Streeting, basically, and he was, again, on the rounds today, he was talking about, we shouldn't breach manifesto promises. We know there's going to be a breach of manifesto promises. There's going to be some raising of income tax. Or, cutting of national insurance for some people to make up for it, but not everybody. Taxes are going to go up. And we've got inflation is still, way above where it should be. Interest rates ain't coming down as quickly as people want. We're looking at 1,000 jobs a day now being lost because of the jobs tax. That's her, solely her. Number of benefit claimants who never have to work hits 4 million. It's up, 1 million more people claiming universal credit, the main out-of-work benefit, with no requirement to look for a job because they're claiming some sort of mental health crisis. I'm sorry. I mean, it used to be the case that they hid the unemployment figures with people on incapacity benefit. Well, now we've got, we've got disability or illness benefits sky high, and unemployment now at 5%, which is high for this country. I mean, France would be dreaming of such an unemployment rate, but. I mean, there is not a single stat that is looking good. Things are going to get a lot worse before, if ever, they get better.
Well, that's right. And not only do we have all of the jobs taxes, you have the employment rights bill. So employers are looking at it going, well, you're going to hit us financially, but you're now going to hit us really hard with employment rights. That means that even if we don't have... if we have somebody that we employ and it's not working out, we can't get rid of them.
And I've certainly worked with somebody who did a fantastic interview, and I'm just like, oh my God, this person. It turned out, and I'm not over properly a psycho, proper full-on psychopath. I mean, literally mad. And to the extent that I'm like, I literally won't even be in the same room as this person alone. They are so mad and dangerous. I mean, but they did a great interview. Oh my God, they were brilliant in the interview. And that's the thing, and every employer, you get these people who just, they talk the talk, but actually they don't deliver, or they're mad, or lazy, or useless, whatever. But either way, employers need to have that choice. And again, as even some Labour people are saying, what's the point of having employment rights if you haven't got a job? And we know that huge employment rights in France, I mean, massive, but actually they've got much higher unemployment because employers don't take people on.
Well, of course they don't. And all the talk about all the young people who are out of the jobs market, well, those employers who were hitting really hard with tax and employment rights are not going to take anybody on. They're not going to take the risk. Therefore, we aren't going to grow as a country. So Rachel Reeves can raise as much taxes as she likes and think this is going to get the economy moving. But if businesses haven't got confidence, they aren't going to employ people. They're going to take their business elsewhere.
And you make it more expensive to employ the new people without the job track record, without the experience. I mean, watching my daughter and her mates trying to get work in the last year or two, really to part-time work, literally taking anything below minimum wage, the sort of those youth, youth minimum wage, and genuinely, travelling an hour and a half to do a few hours of washing up to get something on the CV, so you've got some experience to get the next job. So the young strivers finding it difficult because they're going, well, all the red tape involved is so. But Ken, if we did have digital ID, it would all be fine, right? Again, I really, really, really need X. I love my Twitter. I really need them to have a sarcasm. Font.
They need that. Yeah,
they really do need that, don't they? Digital ID would solve it all. But we simply cannot afford to have all these people on these sort of benefits, and not only are we paying for them, and it's not just the benefits they get; they're entitled to the housing benefit, but also the madness of the Chancellor looking at getting rid of or scrapping the two-child benefit cap. Yeah, we should absolutely be paying people to have a load of kids they can't afford to have. I mean, when most of these people, they go, oh, they're working households. They're not working households. Dad is doing a couple of days a week. Yeah. Mum isn't working. You know why? Because she keeps having more kids. And I know we've got a demographic problem. I'm not entirely sure that a load of people who can't support the kids they've got already, having a load more kids, is really the best route out of that problem.
No, it isn't. And this is not about child poverty, which is what the Prime Minister would like you to believe. It's absolutely nothing to do with it.
It isn't, is it? Explain what it is.
It's about allowing the voting group who will vote for Labour allow them to have the extra benefits, to have the extra
So it's not just lefties, the lefty view that, you solve poverty by handing out other people's money to people. Was it 1 in 5 families from Pakistani heritage, 1 in 4 families from Bangladeshi heritage
That's exactly
have more families,
they
more
have
kids, and
more kids, and therefore they are more likely to get that money, and then they are more likely
You could have as many kids as you want, but you have to pay for them.
But surely
Simple
that's
as that.
the way. I grew up like that. You probably grew up like that. You want something, you earn the money and you pay for it.
I know so many people who would love to have a second child or a third child, and who just, and it's not like, their lifestyle. No, they literally, they simply can't afford it.
Yeah.
They're living, they've cut everything to the cloth as far as they can, but they simply can't afford to have more kids, and they wouldn't, and they earn a bit too much to get benefits, but people, the only people who can afford to have 4 kids, right? You live on a council estate or a country estate. They're the only people. The rest of us, the 90% of us in the middle, can't afford to do it.
No, this is it.
I'm like, no, we've got 1 kid. We were able to stay in sort of fairly central London because we had 1. If we'd had a second, not a chance. Yeah. Not a chance.
Well, this is it. I've only got 1 for very similar reasons. I could afford him. I was on my own.
Also, he's over 6 foot. He eats a lot.
He does eat a lot. He's very good on the pasta. So that's, relatively cheap. But it's one of those things that you have to look at very sensibly. Can I afford to do this? If the answer is no or only just, you don't do it.
Yeah, I mean that is the reality, isn't it? Let's talk about the other big story of the week, of course. BBC. Tim Davie yesterday, the outgoing director general, he's going to still be in the job for like 4, 5, 6 months apparently. Great. He gave a 40-minute sort of, to and fro chat to BBC staff yesterday. I mean. He utterly delusional. He blamed enemies of the BBC for stoking the bias scandal engulfing the corporation. The broadcaster is the very best of society. Those 2 statements are exactly what's wrong with the BBC. They're delusional about the problem. The problem is you and the work that you guys have done. You did something against every journalistic ethic, and not just over Donald Trump, over Israel, over the trans issue, over climate change. You don't obey the... when I did my local newspaper training, and when I did my journalism course, and yes, I know it doesn't feel like it, but I was actually trained. I get journalist inverted commas on social media. No, really spent a lot of money on that course. And if I'd done some of the things that they'd done, I'd have been failed. You'd have literally got a fail on the course, because it's the journalistic practice is so bad. And yet he's saying we are the best of society. But that's the other issue. They genuinely think they're better than us. If they are the very best, we must be below them, right? They think that they're the guiding hand of goodness and niceness and virtue. Having to provide education, indoctrination and propaganda to us horrible, bigoted, stupid plebs. Yeah. That's literally what he means by that.
It is, and the BBC is some kind of holier-than-thou attitude. And when sort of listening to that, it was like when people are going through a breakup and they start blaming everybody else. It was always that person over there, that's their fault, don't like your friends anyway, never liked your mum. It was that kind of attitude. Everybody else was out to get him, and all the BBC were doing were being morally right.
No, you had an affair. That's why we're breaking up. I mean, that's the thing.
But it is, and listening to it, and they feel that they're so morally ahead of everybody else.
They really do, though. And that's why they cannot, and therefore anyone who criticises them must be a bad person. Yeah. Because they think they are better than us. I mean, the broadcaster is the very best of society. That means the rest of us are below. Oh, I'm really sorry for trying to actually, promote, truth. I mean, I think that what we do on this station is genuinely public service broadcasting, trying to put out the facts, trying to actually provide, different levels of debate. We're not afraid of other people disagreeing with us or having that debate. Never. I mean, what amazes me is how many people who I disagree with will go, I don't want to come on. So, what? You can have the platform. What are you scared of? What are you scared of?
But that's what debate is. It's being able to have the benefit of a space where you can have that discussion, you can have a disagreement. It's fine. Nobody's going to be offended. And if you think you're right, you should be able to defend your... There's no one I wouldn't debate with, because I couldn't defend my arguments. We had Donald Trump speaking in an American TV interview, said he's got an obligation to sue the BBC. He's waiting for that apology by Friday, but he's already had the apology. That's the thing. We had the resignations of Tim Davie and Deborah Turness.
the head of BBC News. We had those resignations on Sunday night, and that was after they had received a letter from Donald Trump's personal lawyer saying, they demanded an apology. So there was that apology. Sort of. There were the resignations, and yet he's still saying he has an obligation to sue.
It's almost sort of comical, isn't it? Because I understand why he's doing it, and I think he's got every right to be very angry at the clip. This is his words, his speech was misconstrued in a particularly egregious way.
Misrepresented.
It was misrepresented.
It wasn't a mistake.
It was a fraudulently put together clip. And they need to own up to that. Yep. With him suing the BBC, I don't actually think it's going to happen. Just the complications of the legalities. There will be a payoff. They need to apologise a lot better. Not a "I'm sorry if you were offended" kind of apology, but an absolute proper
it's going to
on
have to
your
be.
knees. I apologise. We were wrong. Mea culpa. And have done.
And you deliberately misleading the public by deliberately splicing together two parts of the speech to distort what was said by the then presidential candidate. He was still he was actually still president, wasn't he? In January 2021. But again, the show went out just ahead of the 24 election. They did that. The enemies of the I didn't do that. I didn't do that. Defund the BBC didn't do that. Nigel Farage didn't do that. Kenny Badenoch didn't do that. You did that, not us. Just finally, I must get to just a small matter. At least 3 more prisoners were mistakenly freed from jail and are at large. David Lammy had to admit in the Commons yesterday. He's been criticised for endangering the public. One of those is an Albanian drug dealer, released in error. He's been on the run for more than a year. I kind of figured we'd be leading with this today. I'm not going to lie.
Any other normal day, we probably would have been. The statement in the Chamber of the House of Commons yesterday was a masterclass in how bad this government really are. But there was no real apology. There was no acknowledgement that his department has made such a mess of this.
He's not personally responsible for someone releasing a prisoner. Exactly. I mean, he isn't personally responsible. No. I mean, I do hate the sort of, he is Calamity Lammy. He is, and he's so pompous. You can't ask for it. I do wonder if we'd be better off putting that French cab driver who he's in dispute with. Put the French cab driver in charge. I bet he'd be better at it.
Oh, I think he would. He'd be great.
I'm going to start a campaign. I'm going to start a petition. Anyway.